You rinse the bottle, sort the plastics, and feel a bit better about it. But here is the uncomfortable truth. What happens between your home and the recycling plant is often messy, uncertain, and out of your control because recycling, as we know it today, mostly doesn't work. So in this episode, we're going to talk about it, how recycling really works, and what we can do to make it better. Hello, friends. You are watching what? A brand new episode of the Green New Perspective podcast, your favorite place on the internet where you can learn about innovative technologies that are shaping our future and discover marketing strategies that are helping these innovative companies to grow. My guest today is Ivan Arbouzov, a lifelong inventor who started his career at optics and engineering before turning to solving the plastic waste issue. He now runs a company called ClearDrop. They are designing smart household appliances that are making pre-recycling possible, which is preparing materials so they can actually be recycled. This is a simple but a radical idea. So instead of us relying on global recycling systems that usually don't really work, we can prepare materials for recycling at home. So in this episode, we are going to talk about why Ivan made this career shift, what are some of the most common misconceptions when we talk about recycling, and how he envisions a future where waste becomes a design challenge, not just an environmental one. So enjoy the conversation.
This episode of Green New Perspective is brought to you by New Perspective Marketing. For over 20 years, New Perspective has helped future-focused B2B tech companies grow by building thought leadership, attracting better qualified leads, and driving pipeline growth. If you're ready for smart strategies, measurable results, and a partner who's invested in your success, visit npws.com to learn more.
Ivan, welcome to the Green New Perspective podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me. My pleasure being here.
So, can you start by telling us a bit about your background and what led you to focus on solving the plastic waste problem? I guess that's the topic that we're dedicating this episode to.
Well, I'm one of those people who started his time in business and doing business pretty early in my life. And my previous success was based on creating new products in a totally different field. It was basically optics and electronics. Many people ask me if I have this specific background. I don't, but it just so happened that I invented quite a few products in my life, and I was lucky enough to have very good partners. And our previous company became quite successful in the field of optics and electronics, namely thermal imaging, night vision equipment, and so on. But then eventually I realized that with all the effort and the wonderful things we made, we didn't make a huge impact on how we live. And I figured that since we achieved certain success, it's a good time for us to, or for me personally, to consider making an impact on something very significant. And environment is very important for every one of us. And that's why I switched to that particular category.
And when you first started thinking about ClearDrop, what was the vision you had for the kind of impact you wanted to make?
Well, I wanted to make sure that part of the category where we individually handle different things from home, we unfortunately, the way we live right now, we generate incredible amount of waste. And this waste is related to items that are very difficult to process, such as materials that we created in the past century. And so I wanted to start from home, where we actually generate the waste that we need to further process. And as somebody who created items and products for people to use individually, and that's where I started. I decided to create new industry of pre-recycling. Some appliances and systems that we have at home that prepare everything that we don't want anymore for further processing. So at the end of the day, where will be nothing coming out that will be trash and end up in a landfill or flying around our street.
So as far as I know, your appliances are recycling or pre-recycling soft plastics, right? So for our audience who are not familiar, what soft plastic is, can you tell us? And are they an
Absolutely.
issue in the US?
Yeah, this is a huge issue in basically around the world, in the United States as well. The soft plastic compactor is one of our leading systems that we're introducing to market right now. We saw it as one of the major problems, but ClearDrop, of course, is going to expand our development into all kinds of different categories of waste that we deal with. From practical standpoint, I tend not to scare people. I think we have a lot of pressure from media, from everywhere. We all know that we're in trouble, that there, hundreds of thousands of tons of things being wasted, poisoning us, and so on, microplastics all over the place. But really, to see what happens, you don't need to go very far. Step outside your home, and I'll give you a few minutes before you see some kind of plastic bag or part of film flying around in the wind. That's why we started with this first, because it's such a big problem and nobody really wants to deal with it.
You said that you're not someone who started in this industry. So can you tell me, what's your perspective on what are the biggest misconceptions people have about recycling soft plastics today?
Well, I think that people are really don't realize that they are quite recyclable. When we see on our recycling bin that don't put our plastic bags in there, and oftentimes there are kind of signs that it's not recyclable. We all need to understand that these signs basically indicate that this cannot be recycled by recyclers that we're dealing with, or in this shape and form that you're putting into this bin. Soft plastics, they call them film in the industry, in the recycling industry. Soft plastics are called film. Quite recyclable. It's reasonably desirable material, but it has to be delivered and has to be processed correctly. And that's where pre-recycling comes in. If we don't prepare it for further recycling, it becomes a nuisance for most of the companies that it clogs the system, and it's like everybody hates it at the end. But if we prepare it correctly, we can recycle pretty much almost 100% of it.
Yeah, you're right. When I'm thinking about plastic recycling, we usually get the information that we should recycle bottles, plastic cups, things like that. But what material do you get by recycling soft plastics?
Well, let's remember that most of the stuff that is in hard plastic also comes in soft plastic. Obviously, there are different materials. PET is not one of them, for instance. That's material that is used to make bottles per se. But when you think about different trays and boxes and whatever else, they are made out of polyethylene, for instance. Polyethylene is used very widely in soft plastic, and that could be it's just a matter of diameter. It could be used in hard plastic as well. If we recycle soft one, we can do all kinds of different things and utilize the same material. There are different ways of recycling, starting with mechanical recycling, where you basically grind the material and it's added to other materials to make something, and that doesn't have to be soft. Currently, for instance, what we recycle, you could find in outdoor furniture, flooring, and so on. It's just part of that. But it can also go to chemical recycling, where it's separated into basic material, and that almost becomes something similar to oil, and then it can be processed further into whatever else you might need.
Yeah, from my experience, people are surprised when they hear that, for example, plastic bottle or a bag can become a piece of clothing or a carpet or a mop for your house, because they're imagining that plastic bottle is recycled into another plastic bottle. Like that's the...
And, the bottle and PET plastic is a bit different story, because PET can be recycled multiple times, and especially if you add to it a little bit of chemicals that stabilize it. So, and that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, let's just remember where it all came from. There's no source of plastic besides oil. The chemical process of that generates all kinds of different combinations. And that's why, our grandparents never knew anything about, well, maybe a little bit further back down there. But nonetheless, they had no access to it whatsoever until chemical industry got to a certain level. But we can always turn it back into where it was.
Well, you live both in the US and Europe. What differences do you see? I mean, Europe is a large continent with plenty of countries, but let's say that we are talking about positive examples here. What differences do you see between how these regions approach recycling?
Right. Well, Europeans are, first of all, Europe is quite diverse.
Yeah.
And so overall, European Union and just countries in Europe, they are quite aware of necessity for recycling. I think that these countries are a little bit more compact than US in certain ways, and even just psychologically. And I think Europeans are a bit more prepared, or they're used to recycling comparing to US. But US is also very diverse. There are cities in the United States that recycle all the time and work really hard on saving the environment. And there are places in the United States where people are just not there up to it so far. But I'll tell you one thing, I've been in business for over 30 years. And I've seen a lot of trade shows. I met with a lot of people with different products. What we have with ClearDrop never could be compared to anything else we had before. People really know that they need it. And we know they need it. We're not doing it just like for profits or somehow enriching ourselves. We're doing it because we must. We really must change our ways. And everybody's told, let's do something, and nobody is giving solutions. With what we are having to offer is very simple, very straightforward, but conceptually, I think this is one of the solutions to a big, big problem we're all dealing with.
I think that now is the perfect moment to give us a short demo on what soft plastic compactor is and what it does, right?
Absolutely. Well, this is, I'm sitting like this and looks like it's bigger, perhaps than it is. It's not the size of a refrigerator, let me put it that way. If I stand up, you won't see my head. But let me just explain to you something. That like we have some like small piece of plastic like this. I mean, even if you bring it somewhere to a place that is luckily for us recycled it in some kind of trustworthy way, most likely this piece of plastic will be blown away by wind because it's really hard to grab. It's difficult to hold it in place. So one of the first problems we were solving with our compactor is just making sure that those things don't fly around anymore. Now, the second one is to make sure that when we transport them, are not making us drive back and forth with just amazing amount of fluff that weighs nothing. And then when we deposit it into a recycling system, which is basically initially it's not so complicated. It's just the belt on which you put things, and then it grinds it into small pieces. So we want to make sure that this belt transporting something that can be grinded and doesn't get stuck and so on. But it all starts with the question where to put it. Now, many of us put it in the big bag, and it just creates this huge bag in our home that then weighs nothing, and we carry it to some store that hopefully will pick it up. A lot of things that will not be delivered to where it goes. Now, in our situation, this system is designed for everybody, not for anybody who is only willing to bend over backwards to recycle plastic. It's very simple. You have a small piece of plastic, and what you do is you just go like this. Every time you don't need it, you go like this. It disappears from your eyesight. And everything from small to big, I will have all different types. This one is from, I ate some fish, so I just go like this, and it's gone. And that's it. Every time you dispose of some, you don't need some packaging anymore, soft plastic packaging. You just put it in there. And that takes you a while. You just kind of, you know where to put it. You forget about it. That's it. It doesn't take any more space. After a while, and on average about a month, this comes out. I cannot do the process for you because it would take us forever to actually have it all going back and forth. But that's what comes out of it. This is what soft plastic compactor does. This is more than a month of my plastic in the family that we used. Every single little wrapper and little pieces of this and that now in much more tangible form. Now, we know for a fact, no matter how far we throw it around and so on, it's not going to fall apart, and it definitely will not fly around. Every single shred of it is now grounded. It weighs roughly 3 pounds. Mine is probably a little bit heavier. And now it makes sense to transport it. And then if we put it on the belt in our recycling facility, it just goes right in, never flies around, and it's clean. You know, when you put it, even if you put it in some other container, it generates, it collects dust, sand, dirt, and all that. In our home situation, it's not so difficult to put reasonably clean plastic in the machine, and that's what comes out. For me, it's a great reward to feel that, I did not pollute for this month at all. It's not happening. We stopped this from happening. That's pretty much what the SPC does, our soft plastic compact.
What if we want to recycle, let's say, a food wrapper? Do we wash it first and then put it in the compactor?
Yeah, ideally, it's a matter of habit.
Uh-huh.
It's better to wash it a little bit. You don't want to have, one of the things about it is the system here, if you want to leave your chicken bone in there, it's just not going to go. And this is one of the problems that some of the companies that had, basically some companies would give you a bag and say, okay, put binds plastic in there, and we will pick it up. And this is wonderful that they're trying to do this. The only problem with it, a lot of people put very wrong things in it to expect everybody, not because they have any ill intent, it's just we are forgetful. We're not thinking about this, or honestly, we're lazy sometimes. So what we need to do, we have that little machine that will tell us it's not going to happen. It's not very complicated. It just only takes soft plastic in it. You cannot put anything big in it. And if you put something that will eventually start smelling like organics inside, you're not doing any favors for yourself in particular, because it might smell after a month of sitting there. And obviously, those people who are dedicated enough to have the system, hopefully, will take care of that.
Did you know your win rate drops by 90% if a deal sits idle for 2 months? Sales cycles are dragging, buyers go silent, decision makers keep multiplying. This 20-minute webinar shares data-backed insights and clear tactics to revive momentum fast and keep it going. Don't let your best opportunities stall out. Watch on demand, link in the episode description, and take back control of your pipeline.
So what we're getting as a result of using this technologies, we're getting this material. We are pre-recycling, right? We're getting these materials that we need to send to recycling facilities. How do you ensure that compacted plastics actually reach the appropriate recycling facilities, or is that on the users?
No, of course it's not on the users. Honestly, when we started developing our system, we almost did it simultaneously with working with the recycling community. Obviously, we had to answer questions. Will it be recycled in the first place? What are we going to do with it? And so on. We're doing it for a very serious purpose of making sure that it's going to be processed. And in our day and age, I think the public often mistrusts what happens to what they put in the recycling bin. To avoid this situation, we actually create our own stream at the moment, just to make sure that this is going to go to where it's supposed to go and that 100% of your recycling happens. We, together with the system, you get bags, you put it in a bag and leave it by your mailbox. And our wonderful U.S. Postal Service will pick it up and deliver it straight to our recycling facility. And it goes straight into recycling together with the bag. It doesn't have to be opened. It just goes straight into the system, and that's recycled. This is our purpose. This is why we're here. If we didn't deliver it, or we delivered it in some kind of faulty, wishy-washy way, we wouldn't be here at all. This is really a mission-driven company.
You mentioned that there is a huge demand for the machine. Who do you see as the earliest adopters of the technology?
Well, I have to say, and it's just in all honesty, initially it's not. My goal had been always to make the machine as inexpensive as possible, available to everybody, It's where people just find ease in it. At the moment, our early adopters are people who still are quite dedicated and committed to recycling, to saving the planet, and so on. As we all know, this is not 100% of population equal level. But there's an amazing number of people who feel very strongly about this. I mean, I mentioned to you many years of being in business and so on. People I met at trade shows and different events where we meet them, they put tears to my eyes. I mean, seriously, because I felt so much reward in fact that we're providing them with the solution that truly works. And those people who feel that strongly are our first customers.
And what is their feedback?
Well, so far, so good. You know, at the end of the day, it's not a very complicated system. You know, sometimes I tell my friends and my colleagues, I say, look, guys, if somebody else did it, maybe I would just choose a different time, you know, different things I would do. I did, you know, maybe I'd focus on personal life or something else, family, perhaps, which I try to do anyway. But nonetheless, we just need to come up with things that will solve our problem. And we don't have too much time. Everybody's under huge pressure.
When we talk about marketing perspective, if we want this product to reach people who are not that enthusiastic about sustainability in the first place, what do you think could be the most effective communication effort to get to those people to understand and care about the things that you're building here?
Well, you know, as in many ways, you know, in society is a machine that obviously thrives on enthusiasm, but also puts some, you know, certain rules into public's life. That's something that works for the benefit of society. We cannot afford flammable objects all over the place or explosives or something like this, just give you some crazy example. And society cannot live and we cannot survive unless we make sure that we protect our environment. So eventually, I think items like this pre-recycling will become a norm. And as such, society will step in to go on to a slightly different level. And there's one creature that sticks into camera. To start with those people, our goal is just to explain to them that it's actually much easier to use it than not. And just statistically, by looking at people I met so far with our product, I would only find like fraction of a percent of people who are not aware and don't care whatsoever. Very, very few. In the whole history of my being there, and our development of about 4 years now, even more than that, I only met one person who said, "Why do you do this? If I can put it in the trash, why not?" The rest of us, at one level or another, are quite aware.
And how would you approach trusted authenticity in this space? Because people are often skeptical about green claims.
Well, first of all, it's being ourselves and being honest with ourselves. We are not a company that would like rush into things. Like now, we produce certain quantity, but we're not making as much as we could, simply because we want to make sure everything works very well. And also, we show people how it actually works. We show them video of what happens to their block when it's transported. And we're totally open about 100% of everything that's happening. It's easier in our situation because, first of all, so far the volume is not absolutely tremendous. It's you know, it's growing, but it's not huge. And secondly, as we show every single block going somewhere and people can see it, I think that is convincing enough. I mean, if anybody wants to just take the block to our facility and see what happens to it, we'll meet them there and we'll be happy. One of our guys likes to share donuts with everybody, so you guys will.
And at the beginning of the conversation, you mentioned that you are broadening the product range. So what else do you have for us?
All right. Well, you know, like I said, our goal is to create solution for everything, but we're not doing it obviously just for the sake of creation. We're doing it to solve real problems. And strangely enough, one of the biggest problems besides soft plastic is organics. And living in the US, of course, we all use grinders. But the problem with grinder, it doesn't take everything. The industry that makes grinders tries to make a grinder that will basically take whatever there is to, you can put in there. But there's limit no matter what. And that limit is anything hard and so on. And another kind of part of this conversation is the fact that if you put stuff in there, I think the benefit to environment is quite limited. It mixes in together with chemicals, mixes in together with all kinds of different things. And yet, if we throw away our organics, they create huge impact on greenhouse effect, which is like 20% of what's going on with global warming or things like that. Now, there are numbers that are quoted. I'm always quite skeptical about those numbers. They could be more or less, but nonetheless, we can all very clearly see if something rots, it creates a gas. So how do we solve this problem? And our company is not designing products at the moment that will immediately turn it into something incredibly useful. As you can see, it's kind of, it's preparation for further recycling. That's why we call pre-recycling. In our organics situation, we call it organics collector. All you do here is turn it on, and every time you have something organic, you just drop it in there, and that's it. I have it in my kitchen, and I peel an egg or cut something, I just drop it in there, and the difference between our products and whatever else out there on the market, we do not claim to have a solution that will do some home composting or do all kinds of different things. Because with all my respect with everybody who is trying to solve the problem, I have a feeling that it's not really necessary to put so much energy. Now we're quite, we're trying to solve environmental problem here, not just to make ourselves feel better about things. So the environmental problem is also using too much electricity. Not to mention it reflects on your pocket. But even if we don't talk about this, what we do here, we solve the main problem. If you put organics and store them for a while, they smell. Organics collector takes away this problem. I had this organics there for a few days now, but previous load was staying for 2 weeks. We were traveling. We came back. And honestly, I had fish, I had meat there, I had egg, anything that would like stink up the whole place. Put my head in there, it doesn't smell. That's all there is to it. Honestly, my family gave me that inspiration because I had like a little bucket at home where I would put organics. It's in Texas. And every time it will fill up at the end of the day, nobody wants to touch it next day because it smells. Everybody hates it. I was the only one who would take it in the backyard and dispose of it in our composter. So I figured there's a problem because nobody likes this, and that's natural that people, have sensitivity to things like that. Now, with our unit, you only dispose of things once a week. You press the button here, and it lifts up. You take out the container, and that's it. I have some organics in there for those who think that it's strong. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Now, we also have a bag that goes inside. For those who don't want to carry the bucket and just want to dispose of the bag, that will also be compostable.
And talking about growth, what milestones are you most excited about over the next, let's say, 5 years?
Well, I think that our milestones are quite ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
There are several layers of what we can offer to people, but something that we would prefer not to. There are layers of people who, the population that would just want to feel better about what they're doing, and they would buy our product and use it. And we're very grateful to them because they will be doing a very important thing. For our company, however, our ambition is to change how we live. We believe that pre-recycling in this particular designs or some things that will be adapted to probably lower cost or whatever else that we come up with. It is a way of the future. I was writing some, texts and so on, we brainstorming on this. When you look at science fiction, do you ever see people throwing things in the garbage can? We got, for us to evolve, we need to go beyond that process. We'll always generate waste one way or another. It's just how life is. But we can address it in a much more technologically advanced way. And that's what our ambition is. Our ambition is to be in every household around the world. Not necessarily a company. We're totally open to have partners, competitors, whoever. But we have to solve this problem. Otherwise, we'll just be knee deep in our own.
And you mentioned partners at the beginning of this conversation. So are there any partnerships or industries that could accelerate your mission?
Well, other companies that create appliances of different kinds could be accelerating by creating other appliances or producing them with us or anything like that. As I mentioned, we're mission driven. In the United States alone, there's like 120 million households. And when we talk about the world, it's something that we all need to address. So, but for now, our partners, true partners that we work with consistently, are recycling companies that we work with, namely Soft Plastic One, that has a vision to ask us for 100% of all the blocks that we create to go to them right now. And so far, they can process it. When we get beyond that number, we'll see.
And finally, for our listeners, how can they get involved and support what you're doing, whether they're individuals or organizations?
Well, first of all, let's spread the word. Let's think about the solution itself and just talk to each other and say, this is what's going to happen. We need to think about it. And obviously, everybody's welcome to order one from us. There's something I want to tell you about ordering right now. Of course, the website you'll probably see there. But beyond that, we as a company put ourselves on a limb in a way, because we realize that cost of the unit of SPC, for instance, for individual family, if they have to pay upfront, could be prohibitively high because we're not producing them in very large volume at the moment. So what we do is we created a subscription-based model where they pay like $200 upfront, and then they just pay subscription to receive our envelopes for the blocks and send it out. It costs about $50 per month. In my ideal world, they would pay $200 and that's it. And eventually, hopefully in the future, this will happen. For now, what we do is in the $50, part of it goes towards paying for the unit, because the unit costs us many times more than the $200 they gave us in front. So that's what's going on. This is my honest explanation to everybody. If you guys want to take part in this, spread the word and put one in your home. And that will be a big start. It will be first step forward towards a much cleaner future.
Well, hopefully our audience is going to amplify our mission. Ivan, thank you for being my guest here on the Green New Perspective podcast.
Yeah, it's a really pleasure to be with you. And, let's all hope that we'll manage to change the world. And we will. I have no doubt about that.
Thank you for tuning in to Green New Perspective. This podcast is proudly sponsored by New Perspective. We are a Boston-based marketing agency working with Cleantech clients solely for over 20 years now. And if you want to check out how we help our Cleantech clients to grow, you can click on the link in the description of this episode. If you like what we do here with the podcast, giving some amazing people from all over the clean tech space a place where they can showcase their innovative tech aimed at combating climate change, you can support us in so many ways. You can leave reviews, comments, or consider subscribing to our channel on your favorite streaming platform. We've noticed that around 75% of you who are regularly watching our show are not subscribing. So just by hitting that subscribe button, you could help us to grow, to get even more people from the climate tech space and create additional content. So please consider doing that. Thank you in advance. And of course, thank you for tuning in to this episode, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.